welcome back to our studio for the day 4 and the last day of the conference of the World Council of Religious Leaders on Faith and Diplomacy, Generations in Dialogue. So my name is Renz, and again, I'm here with my colleague, Amina, who will be your host for the last day of the conference. Of course, as the past 3 days, we have prepared more exciting content for you, so make sure that you stay tuned. And of course, in case that you missed some of the sessions, both in the studio and in the main hall of the Insel Halle, you can, of course, visit our video library and rewatch those parts that you have missed. And of course, to start our day, we have again our amazing youth media team who have prepared for us another video about COVID. So let's see this video. Enjoy.
My mother got COVID-19. Since I'm an only child and my father passed away 3 years ago, so I have my mother and she's the most precious thing for me, and she got COVID-19.
For me, it was a lot connected to my grandmother. My grandpa passed away 3 years ago now, and since then she's been living lonely, and most of that time during a pandemic.
My father, he suffered from COVID-19. I saw how critical he was, how he almost lost hope. It was very bad.
It's your loved ones which really affect you. I still get tears in my eyes when I think of that moment, because you see, you are more concerned about your loved ones, and especially elders.
This pandemic has shown that if we come together as one, we can do a lot of change.
I think we have to share our experiences. There are lessons that we have learned. We've had our successes and we've had our failures. I think it's an opportunity to ask the hard questions.
Now we have to think along with the COVID. These people are facing that situation, plus unrest, plus climate change, plus different situations. So it's something which you have to think on a broader perspective.
And welcome back. So we have some interesting guests with us this morning as well. We have our Dear Religions for Peace team, but we also have somebody from the Ring for Peace team. So we have Karen Hernandez with us and Katarina Kötke with us as well. So welcome to our studio, ladies.
Thank you.
Welcome. So tell us more about the work that you do for Ring for Peace and for Religions for Peace, and how can our audience get in touch with you if they would like to work with you, of course.
All right. Well, I'm working with Ring for Peace, and I work on a lot of different things. I work on the preparation of the conference, in finance. I work with HR, and I'm also part of the program team. So I've been involved in many different aspects of the conference.
Wonderful. Karen?
Yes, thank you. Glad to be here. Good morning. I am the program officer for partnerships and interreligious education. And so for me, in regard to the conference, particularly, I have helped out Sarah von Bentum, who is the coordinator, with a lot of the pre-conference preparation as well as programming. And in regard to my position, I work on partnerships with UN entities and other like-minded organizations, as well as working on aspects of interreligious education and ensuring that that is kind of a cohesive component in much of the work that we do.
Well, we do appreciate all the work that you're doing for all of us, of course.
And of course, without the two of you and the rest of the team, the conference would not be possible. So you played the crucial role in the puzzle to make all of this happen. So you are both experienced ladies working very much in the field, but can you share with us some stories from your work that stays with you, in regards to intergenerational cooperation or interreligious cooperation, maybe something from the past assemblies or your past work? So just something. Maybe Karen, we start with you. If you have a story, maybe you can come up with one. Or maybe I just surprised you with a question.
I have a lot of stories, but I think probably one of the most influential moments in my life was when I was getting my first master's degree, and I was in India. I was in Varanasi, and I was invited into an all-Wahhabi madrasa. And I was the first Western woman actually to be allowed into this madrasa to speak to the young men who were going to school there. And it was just kind of a very phenomenal experience in regard to learning and having conversations with these men that most people would view as not being people who would actually want to speak to somebody else outside of their tradition. And so walking away from those conversations has guided me very much in my work even today, and this was back in 2006.
Wow, that was a pretty long time ago, but it obviously stayed with you.
It has,
A lot.
definitely.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Those stories are very important for us, for our listeners to hear, actually, to see how encounters with people change and how encounters actually help us to do something called interreligious dialogue. But Katerina, please, do you have something to share with us?
Well, I think for me it was this time again an example of something that happens in my work a lot. Like sometimes my work can be really dry. It's a lot of emails, a lot of preparation. And then you have a moment like the Ring for Peace ceremony this time when Fatima Halal, Margot Kesman, and grandfather and grandmother Rankin told their stories. I was standing in the audience and I could suddenly feel that everybody was touched, and you could really see in the faces, and not every eye was dry. And in those moments, it's really like, okay, that's what we work for, that's why we do this. People actually feel this, it's not just a conference.
Well, I think those moving moments really touch all of us, and it's something that we can really bring with us. And speaking of that, we are about to close our conference today. What are your reflections in the past 4 days of this conference? And is there anything that you say would have really impressed you? Although Katarina shared that about the ceremony, but is there anything that really touched you, impressed you, or other reflections that you have?
Well, for me, what was amazing was that you could really see how thirsty people were for human contact and interaction. And sometimes it was even a little bit hard to get people to participate in the sessions because they enjoyed talking to each other that much. So that was wonderful and great, but also, of course, that wasn't the greatest thing, but something that touched me.
Wonderful. Karen?
I think for me, not only what Katarina just said, but also watching youth in action. I know a few of you from my work before with United Religions Initiative, but in this context, watching the assertiveness and the intelligence and the very wide capability and obviously that is there in the youth, and that we really need to engage more with the youth, because you literally are our future. So just really appreciative of that.
Wonderful.
And actually connected to that question, what do you think we can do more to increase youth participation and to strengthen something what we call intergenerational cooperation? So just connected to that question, because you already said we have to include it more.
I think that, if you will, adults, we have to step back and listen and not assume that we know more and that we are capable of kind of fixing what we've already messed up, maybe.
I tried fixing.
Yes, for lack of a better word. So I think it's just really important that to take a step back and to listen. Really, it's all about listening.
Thank you, Karen. Katerina, briefly.
Yeah, I very much agree with that. And I think often the invitations to participate are phrased in a way that they mostly resonate with maybe the older generation. So I think purposefully addressing younger people would probably involve them more.
Thank you very much, Katerina. And one last question is, what will you take from this conference? Something very briefly touching.
Probably a word or...
A word,
you know.
or some session, or something somebody said maybe during the conference. Or maybe the Ring for Peace ceremony that you were there.
I think for me it's humility.
Good.
Humility.
I love that word.
Thank you, Karen.
Katarina?
That's a tough question, but I think just interaction and warmth maybe.
Yes, we need that now. Well, it's about time for the prayer.
Yes. So thank you, ladies, for being with us. Thank you for joining the studio. We know that you worked hard during the past days and you're probably very tired, but thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And at this point, we're now about to begin our multi-religious prayer and meditation. So let's go now to the main hall for this moment of reflection.
This was another moving prayer and meditation. It really shows the value of coming together and uniting amidst our diversity, and the performance of Maestro Zhang Zhang was just maestral. But now, we would like to share with you some videos again, and we have been supplied by our youth media team with some really funny videos that we are going to stream now.
I'm really excited to see, do I recognize any of these snacks?
I hope I get it right.
Okay, so let's taste some food.
Take a little bit of this.
I'm assuming this from Kenya.
I would go for Brazil.
Indonesia.
I'm opening.
Is pakokita.
I will bite a little bit.
This is definitely from Brazil.
I'm assuming this is from Brazil.
I would go for Kenya.
This one looks scary.
I'll just take a bite.
Kenya.
Oh my. Spicy, so I'm assuming it's Indonesia.
This is a bit crispy, a bit salty. Oh my. This is chili. Oh my. I go for the Indonesia here.
It's so nice. Yeah.
Okay, at least I managed one. So,
Oh my god, I'm so good. I love this. I'm gonna keep it. Thank you. That was such a fun experience trying all those goods and snacks from the different parts of the world. And I'm sorry, Amina, that you lost to that. Just 1 out of 3.
Well, I am happy that I managed to guess at least one, because I'm not perfect as you are. I mean, you are so good. You know, you showed
The
that.
snacks from Indonesia were a bit of a betrayal, right?
They were
They taste
very
good, and then
chili.
suddenly they're
Oh my! I felt chili like half an hour later in my throat, and I was like, "Wow!" But
but they were all good.
they were
yes.
good. They were good. We really enjoyed in the challenge actually, and I really enjoy all of the videos that Youth Media team is producing for us, because they are so youthful, so fun, and at the same time they are showing the diversity that we are experiencing here. So that's the most important thing.
Yes, and now we're having another video. This one is a video featuring grandfather Rankin that talks about abuse of children. Let's see this video, and we have a trigger warning. Please take note of it.
C'est un choc de plusieurs années plus tard. Qu'est-ce qu'on a appris qui ont trouvé des enfants. Et puis d'un côté, je suis un des survivants du passionnat. C'était très, très souffrant. J'ai pleuré beaucoup, beaucoup. Et l'agressivité était très, très, très fort, l'agressivité. Puis j'ai refusé toutes les journalistes. Je n'avais rien à dire. On est retourné à faire des cérémonies dans la forêt. Et c'est là que j'ai commencé vraiment à être prêt à aller devant. Et il a fallu que je sorte des émotions, de réparer en l'intérieur de moi-même. Mais j'ai changé de façon de voir les enfants. Ils sont debout maintenant, ils sont invisibles, ils ont retourné dans la forêt d'où ils viennent. Il faut libérer l'esprit. Et moi, marcher, c'est l'observation. J'observe. Je regarde il y a quelques minutes dehors, ça m'a libéré un peu l'esprit. qu'est-ce que je fais ici avec Religion for Peace? Et c'est ma place. J'ai jugé beaucoup l'Église catholique. J'ai appris qu'est-ce qui s'est passé. Et c'est justement, c'est le pouvoir et non pas des religions. C'est pas l'Église qui t'a violé. Personne, sauf une femme malade et un homme malade. Quand on entend parler des histoires horribles, il ne faut pas être coupable. Et alors, il ne faut pas garder ça en intérieur. Il faut partager. Et alors, moi, je suis ici avec les gens. C'est mes frères et sœurs. Jugez, jugez. Et c'est jamais trop tard pour demander dans votre langage que vous dites « Je te pardonne-moi ».
Wow, this was very moving video
Yes.
that we had the opportunity to watch. And I think we are all grateful to Chief Rankin that he's here with us and that he's actually sharing his experiences with us and that we have him as a very strong figure who actually represents how we can forgive and how we can actually, move on with the people and how we can basically, work in unity and diversity. And we are, again, very grateful to have Chief Rankin with us. But now it's actually time to hand over to another panel. And next panel will be on nourishing the human in humanitarianism with the recipients of the Multi-Religious Humanitarianism Fund. So our moderator will be Ms. Eda Mollach Hussein, and keynote will be delivered by Her Excellency Ms. Ursula Müller, and the speakers include Ms. Laura Vargas, which we have seen in our studio yesterday, Ms. Jacqueline Malari from the Philippines, Shamsa Abubakar Fadel from Kenya, and Dr. Genti Kruya from Albania. So enjoy your second last session.
Hope you had a good sleep, and we just approached to the end and the last day of this wonderful conference. We had covered many important subjects since Monday, and today we are going to be concluding with humanitarianism, which is another important aspect when we are tackling environmental issues.
To our studio, that has been a really interesting panel, reminding us of our accountability to humanity and the many things that we can do, of course, especially in the field or area of humanitarianism. So, any takeaways, Amina?
I will take away what Laura Vargas said, like loving and caring for the other. And I think we just forget that in our everyday lives. And that's why we live in a world that we live in, unfortunately. But it's very simple, just loving the others and caring for them.
Yes, and well, for me, my takeaway is I'm a bit biased with Jel Malyari because we're friends in the Philippines. What she said about religious leaders needing to take a political stand, especially on the issues we face today. So at this point, we are happy to have with us, although virtually, Reverend Usman Joseph Forna, the Secretary General of the Interreligious Council of Sierra Leone, for our case study interview. Hello, Reverend Forna, are you with us?
Reverend Forna, can you hear us?
I think we're having some technical problems in the connectivity with Reverend Forna. Well, we'll get back to him in a while. So at this point, let's watch a video on meditation just to help us get in that mood at this point, and then we'll try to get back with Reverend Forna.
Due to COVID, I had to travel early to participate in the Get Generations in Dialogue conference and quarantine. It reminded me how important it is to ground ourselves in the here and now and also spiritually connect. So I invite you to join me in this meditation. I hope this video finds you well. Stay safe and be happy.
Thank you, JJ, for that video on meditation. I think that can be helpful for our audience who would like to meditate, especially during the breaks in our sessions in our panel. Amina, I noticed that you and I are both wearing black, and when I went to the main hall a while ago, I saw that many of our young delegates are also wearing black. So what is it with wearing black on a Thursday?
You're right, Trent. Actually, we are wearing black because we are supporting the campaign Thursdays in Black, which is a campaign by World Council of Churches, which Religions for Peace joined. And it's actually, every Thursday posting photos, posting quotes in order to support, to raise awareness about gender-based violence that is happening all around the world. And actually yesterday during the debate, there was a question raised about how gender-based violence was increased during the pandemic because people were confined to their homes. And unfortunately, mostly women were those who were exposed to it and who were basically, even more violated than they are in the world that we live in. So in order to support Thursdays in Black, you should wear something black on Thursday. You can take a photo of yourself and you can take a quote that you would like for people in the world to see how you are actually supporting Thursdays in Black and why you are supporting it. It can be from your faith perspective, it can be from your just belief perspective, it can be from any perspective, just to raise awareness and show that we need to work on decreasing gender-based violence, and this is a serious issue that we are facing. So you can take a photo of yourself wearing something black, post a quote, you can use hashtag Thursdays in Black, of course, and you can put a story on Instagram or just on Facebook, you can tweet something, and this will help. This will really help because it will raise awareness among the people. And today, our young people actually are preparing something for you. And also, Renz and I decided to wear black today.
Yes, and of course, the support that we have with regards to this campaign is reflective of our spiritual, moral, and ethical responsibility to ensure the protection of each and every one of us and to fight gender-based violence, which until now is still happening all over the world. And of course, we are responsible for one another, so take a stand and join us in Thursdays in Black.
Yes, and it's worth to mention that our religious leaders, those who are working closely with Religions for Peace, also took a stand and they sent their messages and they joined the campaign and are still joining. So on RFP channels, you can actually find some videos, you can find some posts and photos, and you can see their messages. And as I said in the panel 2 days ago, like those people are not just pretty faces holding their messages. Those people are those who are making the difference in their communities and who are really raising awareness and working on the issue of gender-based violence, but many other issues within their own local context.
Yes. And well, at this point, we would like to inform you, however, that we regret that Reverend Forna is unable to join us due to technical problems. I think there are problems in the internet connectivity of Reverend Forna. And at this point, we would like to share with you another video featuring an interview with Dr. Charles Ian McNeil regarding youth climate action. So, action.
One generation has no right to strip away the opportunity of the next generation. That theme came over and over again. We do not have the right to take away your future, the future of young people. Older generation have a responsibility to do our part, but we need your enthusiasm, we need your vision, we need your help to turn the corner. That this will only happen with this partnership between generations. Yes, we're responsible, but you have the leadership, the vision, and the insight to really help turn the corner. I went to college at the University of California, Berkeley, which was the hotbed of the free speech movement in the 60s and 70s and anti-war. And I was a community organizer. And I was more an organizer for human rights than the environment. But these issues are absolutely related. Human rights, environmental protection, they're all the same issue. So yes, I got in lots of trouble. I was in demonstrations, I was arrested, I spent time in prison. I've had a very colorful youth, and I learned a lot. And it made me even more committed and even more radical to have that experience of civil disobedience and to have spent time in jail and see how unfair and how badly treated people in prisons are. I concluded that time that every lawyer, every judge must spend time in prison anonymously to understand how that system works. And so I hold that view that we people who enforce the law need to understand what that prison system is all about. So yes, I've had some personal experience in rebellion and opposition, and I would do it again if I had another chance.
And now we're back in our studio, and as you can see, we are in our living room, which means that we have another special guest with us. So for this part of the studio, we have an interview with Professor Wolfgang Schurer, the chairman of the board of the Foundation Peace Dialogue of World Religions and Civil Society. Welcome, Professor Schurer, in our studio. And we are curious, as the head of the Foundation Peace Dialogue for World Religions and Civil Society, as we are about to close the conference, are you happy and content with what has transpired in the past few days of this conference?
Thank you, Renz, for asking this. Happiness is a little bit large. I'm grateful for this conference happening the way it is in the midst of the pandemic. The fact that we were able to arrange a hybrid meeting is a distinct difference to last year, and it is sending a signal of hope for next year's meeting in Lindau. So gratitude is prevailing. Mm-hmm. In terms of the substance, we are glad that an idea and the concept with regard to the intergenerational dialogue has been accepted, and that it becomes visible that this is not one more classic conference or one more youth meeting, but that it is an invitation that 2 or 3 generations, even better, realize that what is at stake, but what is possible too. And rather than analyzing only the drama, we are trying to mobilize joint energies, and we are very, very glad that this takes place after last year's conference, which was having women at the center. And I think intergenerational does not mean the grandparents, the parents, and the younger generation on the table. It means mobilization of women as well and youth. And if we are appreciating that 51% of the global population are women, and we see what women are achieving in the area of peace, then the delta between what is necessary and what is lacking is not only a negative delta, there is hope and encouragement there. And if this is what we are able to inspire, and then what the participants returning home will translate into an agenda of action, then happiness might be the right word in the reflection of this year's meeting in Lindau.
I agree with you that I think the conversations here should not stop with just conversations, but they need to translate to concrete actions.
Absolutely. That's something that also the two of us were talking when we were speaking about our expectations from the conference. But just connecting to that, what are the key findings and conclusions for you and the most memorable memories of the past days that you will carry with you home?
A very special memory is going to be the joy in faces to meet in person. And an overwhelming echo from the 1,700 participants that joined us virtually. We have received dozens of mails saying it is so good to see you in Lindau engaging. We appreciate that we are able to participate disregarding the distance, but the best from our perspective, if we are in Japan, in New Zealand, in Latin America, in Africa, is the hope that next year or the year after, we will all be able to physically unite again in Lindau and share not only themes, but analysis of problems, presentation of concepts, and exchanging what is the learning lesson. And that, for me, is, if you wish, the inspiration and the hope that goes with this conference, that we can contribute bit by bit to the necessary transformation and do it jointly. And then we will see that there is, among the diverse faith traditions, something which is very obvious if you are reflecting religions. We have a unique ethical reservoir. And whether it is Buddhist, Jewish, Islamic, Christian, is not the main difference. It suddenly becomes the strength of something common. And if we translate this strength into jointly caring on the future, jointly applying on environmental challenges, jointly addressing to overcome sexual violence against women, then we see what the real purpose of this meeting is, and that is encouragement on one hand, and the urgency and the drive that needs to be developed. And if I'm allowed to say this as a person who just recently turned 75, your generation is the hope. And I would like to thank both of you, because there is a paradox. The paradox is that my generation leaves significant problems on the shoulders of your generation. And your generation here in Lindau is putting the trust in us to have an intergenerational dialogue. And Renz recently in a workshop phrased it very, very correctly. The challenge is establishing a balance between passion and patience. And allow me to say, my generation is always arguing with the notion of experience. Is experience only positive? If I would argue from your generational perspective, I would say, well, Wolfgang, a couple of the things that are legacies of your generation are not really terrific. So let us develop jointly an approach to joint learning, to joint analysis, and let us accept that there are different angles and that there are different desires, that we have a different sense of urgency. And if one grows older, one has a tendency to, in a way, reflect on the beauties of the past. If I would change the seats with you and would look from your perspective into the beauty of the past, this beauty is not as beautiful as we tend to believe it or tend to present it. So the self-referentialism that is sometimes dominating debates is clearly not the compass towards caring for a common future.
Indeed. Yes.
Wow. Thank you, Professor Schurer, for this powerful message that I hope our listeners and audience heard, because you pointed out the importance of experience of the seniors ones, but also you pointed out the importance that the burden that we have on our shoulders, it's not just our burden, it's something that we share and that we have to do in dialogue together. And I think this is kind of relieving, because sometimes I really feel that I have all the burden of the world to carry out as a young person. And it's so good to hear from somebody experienced as you words like this. Thank you again.
And Professor Schurer, you mentioned about this paradox, right? Wherein we put our trust in you, the more experienced generation. In the past few days of this conference, we have a lot of discussions regarding the actions that we can take together. But a challenge always is how we can transform those into actions. What do you think should our organizations, Religions for Peace and Ring for Peace, do differently this time to ensure that we're able to achieve these actions?
Renz, allow me to become quite personal. You are spearheading a project with regard to how to assist people who have been exposed to trauma. I'm serving as chairman for the Ring for Peace Foundation, and we are actually developing a concept to assist not women, but to address one of the most unacceptable humanitarian dramas, that is exposing women to isolation after an attempt of rape or the practice of rape. And when I listened to you on the project in the Philippines, I immediately grasped that there is something in your project which could assist us in application in Kenya or in the Cape Province. So we should not look at things through our subjective prisms. We should see where can we learn, where can we align forces, and how this contributing to making the world a little bit less brutal, a little bit less irresponsible, And if this is one of the outcomes of Lindau 2021, then you, who will be here in 2023 and in 2025, will see that this was not one more summit meeting or one more conference. Then you will reflect it that something was initiated here, which you will see emerging, rising, implementing, and contributing to change. And I won't be living for so many years. And the two of you will be then able to reflect and say, 2021 Lindau brought about a tangible change. And if this is what this meeting achieves, then suddenly the dignity, humanitarian rights, the rule of law will no longer be something abstract, something to be preached about. It will be becoming tangible, specific, concrete, and it will have the currency of change applied, the currency of urgency applied, the currency of care applied. And these three currencies will lower in one respect and increase in the other respect trust building. And trust building is what I think, if this is emerging out of the Lindau meetings, then you see that the canon, 2019, the 10th World Assembly, 2020, the Women Conference, in 2021, Generations in Dialogue, is despite the fact that these are three independent projects, you see suddenly something as a common denominator which makes a difference. And allow me to say a word of appreciation towards Religions for Peace. Religions for Peace is an inspiration, and it is an attempt to practically contribute to change. We at the Ring for Peace have this symbol, which you see behind your colleague, the ring. And this symbol will be at the end of the day, hopefully proving to both generations, yours, mine, and the one that is not present in between the two, you and me. It will demonstrate that the Ring for Peace is not just a beautiful piece of wood coming out of pieces from all of the continents. It is the symbol behind it for what we are jointly achieving or trying to achieve.
Thank you for that. And it is an honor as a young person that someone like you is recognizing the work that we have been doing. We have a lot of young people speaking in the panels in the last 4 days of the conference, and we hope that other experienced generations would also see the value in the work that we are doing, and may you be their inspiration in taking that action towards respecting, recognizing the possible contributions of the youth as well.
So, Professor Schurer, you're a pioneer of intergenerational dialogue. So what is your impression of the dialogue between generations that was happening here in Lindau during the assembly, and how we can keep this apart from the conference? How can this intergenerational dialogue go on? And would you be ready to hand over to young people and younger generation?
Well, the fact that you are here is a testimony to this willingness to hand over. 50 years of intergenerational dialogue is not a continuum in one way, because in these 50 years, very many things have changed. And allow me, as I had the privilege to host one of the first presentations of the Club of Rome report in the year 1972 at St. Gallen University, when Aurelio Peccei agreed to present it. At my age, you realize that it took too long to learn the lessons. And therefore, I'm becoming, the elder I get, more humble with regard to what is the notion of experience. And I think we need to become a little bit more courageous, to simply listen better to what the concerns of your generations are, not in a way to, endear ourselves with your generation, but to simply say, let us sit on the same table to exchange experiences, but not to be satisfied by the exchange, but to then agree on an agenda for action. And that is what, for my wife and myself, is very rewarding in the projects in Kenya and in the Cape Province, that we see that we can make a little bit of a difference. And allow me to say, if one of the biggest private clinic groups in South Africa, like Mediclinic, one of the renowned universities, Stellenbosch University, some extraordinary qualified laboratories like Unistel are suddenly willing to join their resources. And we are on the verge of establishing a first all-women leadership team for the project in South Africa. And we see the enthusiasm of nurses who are eyewitnesses of the dramas on the street. Then you suddenly, disregarding you turn 75, you become humble, grateful, and hope is rising that we can make a difference. And this is, for me, the handshake among professions, disciplines, and generations. And if that handshake makes the impact we hope, we can say in a very, very small, specific environment, the Cape Province in Southern Africa, something is changing in the year 2021 and 2022. And then I think we can be deeply grateful and related to some seeds that have been planted here 3 years ago.
Wonderful. And as we're about to move towards the final part of this program, allow me to ask a final and a personal question. You shared with me a speech. If I remember it correctly, it was when you stepped down as the chair of the Nobel laureates meetings. You talked beautifully about mentorship there. What is your message for both the experienced, the older generations, and to younger generations with regards to mentorship?
I think mentorship is then very potentially successful and somewhat unlimitedly successful if it takes place on an equal footing. If I see in the two of you, not your age or whatever is limiting, but that I see the passion and the desire to engage towards changing the world. And I closed with a thought in Linda when I handed over my responsibilities, which I think is as correct 5 years ago as it is today. If we perceive in between us an empty seat like this one here, and say there is an invisible partner in any conversation, in any project, that is a representative of the young generation, and we give her or him a voice, it forces me to reflect differently. And it is an invitation for the young lady or the young guy. And if we are willing to practice this, not just as a conceptual thought, but as something which we embed in our life's practice, then I think we have reason for hope, and we will see an unfolding, and then you will be the judges. In 5 years, you might be reflect even on this conversation, and then you will see, did we deliver or didn't we deliver? And then we are suddenly jointly attempting something. And generations in dialogue means that each generation brings their hopes, their experience, their energy, their passion and their commitment on the table. And therefore, I think Lindau 2021 was the beginning of a new intensity of engagement of your generation in the dialogue. And allow me to say, I'm deeply grateful that the two of you have been doing this studio here. Not because you gave me a chance to share and reflect on some of my ideas. I'm outgoing. The way you approached this studio, you have contributed to a bit of change. And you have given a light into the representatives of your generation, because not only the 1,700 participants, virtual participants of the Lindau meeting, in the world of social media, the fact that you do what you do here, the way how you do it, is a signal and is an encouragement. And therefore, finally, it is on me to thank you and wish your generation luck that we can correct a couple of the things that we messed up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Schur. Thank you for the trust that you have given our generation and for opening the doors for us to allow us also to contribute to these changes.
Absolutely.
And we're now about to move to the closing ceremony. So as we are about to bid goodbye to the studio, Amina and I are really happy, and we had fun in the past few days of this studio and in the conference. Amina?
Thank you again for watching us, for being with us, and it was a pleasure to be your host here.
Well, we're saying goodbye in the studio, but you'll see us a bit later in the closing ceremony. And at this point, we are about to show you another video of Lindau as we prepare for the closing. Enjoy this video, and for the last time, goodbye from Amina and I.